Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, dwyervip.com. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. I know that some great working relationships where you're putting out a top shelf quality product, where you're hitting the ball out of the park with your friends, associates, whatever. I know that a lot of those relationships fall apart. Not because the product isn't world class, not because the product isn't great, but because of other reasons. We're all humans, we have personalities. Some guy is going to say, what? You don't like my girlfriend? Somebody else is going to say, hey, how come my song isn't on the album? Right? Somebody's going to say, hey, I want to sign with this agent, with these business people. Somebody else is going to have someone whispering in their ear that they would do more if they went solo. So the Beatles broke up. So NWA broke up awfully early. Right? In the financial world, George Soros and Jim Rogers were killing it, making a mint. You would think it would have been easy for the guys to say, hey, here's your billion, here's my billion. No. Those guys couldn't make it. Together, at least. They're making it apart, but those guys couldn't make it together. Right? Now, let me say this. I'm a big believer, just in terms of life. Right? I've seen this too often. I've been a part of this too often. I'm a big believer that rather than just having yes men around you, you need to have some friends who, in the words of Howard Cosell, will tell it like it is. You need some guys who dare to be no men around you, who dare to disagree with you, who will come up to you at times and say, you know what, you're full of sugar, whatever the word, right? Well, look, let me just say something about boxing. And then let me segue to Timothy Bradley and Joel Diaz. Right? A generation ago, Ray Leonard was in the ring in one of his finest moments, the first fight against Thomas the Hitman Hearns. And by the way, style-wise, styles make fights, right? More so than records. I believe Thomas Hearns would have beaten Floyd Mayweather based on styles. For those of you who disagree, I encourage you to revisit Thomas Hearns against master chess player Roberto Duran, a guy who Floyd Mayweather himself has on his top 5 pound-for-pound list. Right? Top 5 all-time great list. Right? Well, the Ray Leonard-Thomas Hearns fight, much hyped, huge fight. Right? Ray Leonard is losing the fight. I actually believe, on my scorecard, he was losing the fight. Right? And then the guy in his corner, his trainer, Angelo Dundee, a guy who had been Ali's trainer. Between rounds in that fight, as Ray Leonard is falling behind, with press row, literally right there in press row, right? In a nip and tuck fight where the fighters needed each round. Dundee hops in the ring, looks at his fighter, and tells his fighter, you're blowing it, kid. Right? Think about that. People in press row heard it. Right? You can imagine a judge on the fence over the last round then hears Ray Leonard's own trainer telling him in the middle of a fight, you're blowing it, kid. I'm telling you, Ray Leonard looks at him. It's a wake-up call. Leonard comes out and from that point forward starts to sit down on his punches. He ends up closing the show. Right? Now, after the fight, as you can imagine, it's publicly embarrassing to have a guy in your corner saying you're blowing it, kid, and stuff like that. Understand, after the fight, Ray Leonard and Dundee were as close as ever. Right? By the way, this is the same Dundee who told Ali during the Rumble in the Jungle to get off the ropes. Ali didn't listen to him. Ali won that fight. Did Ali fire Angelo Dundee? Absolutely not. Because I'm telling you, guys at the top of the game understand that they need advisors around them who are going to talk straight. You want straight talk. You don't want to hear stuff that the other guy believes you want to hear. You want to hear what the guy's really thinking. Now, Timothy Bradley fought a fighter, Ruslan Pavatnikov, who has one of the biggest punches pound for pound in boxing. Pavatnikov can take your head off, right? You saw him deck Chris Algieri twice, early, in a fight that he lost, right? You saw him finish Mike Alvarado, right? Pavatnikov can hit with the best of them. Now, between rounds of that fight, there are moments where Joel Diaz, Timothy Bradley's trainer, who he's been with a long time, is telling Timothy Bradley, who at times, let's face it, has been a bit of a knucklehead, right? The Manny Pacquiao rematch fight, the end of the Jesse Vargas fight, right? The Kendall Holt opening where he almost gets decapitated, right? Joel Diaz is basically telling his fighter in strong terms, what are you doing? You need to move, right? Understand their strategy for the fight. Their training camp was supposed to emphasize a few things. It's clear from the dialogue in the corner that Joel Diaz didn't see Timothy Bradley doing the right things. And it's Joel Diaz's personality, where he told his fighter so. Right? Now, understand who Joel Diaz is. Timothy Bradley's not the only guy who Joel Diaz has been in the corner for, who has done well in fights. Right? Go back and look at the Amir Khan, Julio Diaz fight, where Diaz drops Khan. Right? Khan gets off the canvas and wins the fight. But of course, you know who's in his corner. It's Joel Diaz. Understand, Julio Diaz fought to a draw with Sean Porter. Right? In other words, Joel Diaz is a guy who can help fighters in tough fights against world-class opponents. Now, I understand. Timothy Bradley, the personalities, same with the Beatles, same with NWA. The personalities reach a point where the quality of the cuts put on vinyl, the quality of the songs, the music, doesn't matter after a certain point. Right? Timothy Bradley in interviews says that after the Jesse Vargas fight, he looked around for Joel Diaz, and Joel Diaz wasn't in his corner. God forbid Joel Diaz left the corner and went to the dressing room. Right? Bradley's a guy who demands loyalty. Look, loyalty is very important in life. I agree with that. Right? But at the same time, it's staggering to me, absolutely jaw-dropping, that Timothy Bradley would change trainers right before fighting Brandon Rios. Let me say this. Know the players in the room. Right? Understand Teddy Atlas is a great trainer. Atlas is Bradley's new trainer. He's a great trainer. I've long been a fan of Teddy Atlas. Atlas is one of my personal favorites in terms of analyzing fights. I've learned a lot listening to Atlas, who's a very good boxing commentator in addition to being a world-class trainer. Right? This isn't meant as a knock on Teddy Atlas. But what I'm saying is this. Brandon Rios has an aggressive front foot game. He's going to be in your face. When you're fighting Brandon Rios, you don't have to go looking for Brandon Rios. Brandon Rios is going to come knocking on your door. Right? Brandon Rios is the guy throwing punches while you're trying to take a breather. right? Brandon Rios is going to be there all day, right? Think about it. Chris Algieri knocked down several times by Manny Pacquiao. Well, Pacquiao fought Brandon Rios before then. Great chin. Rios is there for 12 rounds, right? For 12 rounds. Also, look in Rios's corner. And this is important, right? Because in this sport, where Freddie Roach wins every trainer of the year, understand there's some other world-class trainers out there. Robert Garcia is a world-class trainer. You remember that Marcus Maidana, Adrian Broner fight, when many people thought Broner was the next big thing, including me, who picked Broner in that fight? Maidana won the fight. If you look at Maidana's corner, you're going to notice Robert Garcia's in the corner. Right? Understand, Robert Garcia has been in the corner of many a championship match. Right? People consider the two Maidana fights to be more competitive than Mayweather's last fight against Andre Berto. Right? Maidana's the last man to get a rematch against Floyd Mayweather. Right? Garcia has been in the corner planning strategy against opponents like Adrian Broner and Floyd Mayweather. He's an excellent trainer. Now, last night here in the United States, you saw a football game. Great quarterback, Peyton Manning. Right? His coach isn't bad either, Gary Kubiak. But Peyton Manning got sacked multiple times yesterday. Think about it. Peyton Manning's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. But he's playing under a new coach. Right? You can imagine Peyton is in the huddle. And rather than just be Peyton, rather than look over the shoulder of a lineman and say, oh, they're in this defense, let's attack it this way and stuff, he's thinking in terms of his new coach. So he's like, well, what would Coach Kubiak want me to do here? Right? Rather than just be in the pocket and react, say, okay, it's a cover two, I'm going to go to, the tight end. Peyton Manning's in the pocket, and he's looking befuddled, isn't he? Because it's a new offensive scheme. Some of these routes aren't the same as the old routes. There's some minor differences. Manning's trying to deal with the minor differences. My fear for Timothy Bradley in his upcoming fight against Brandon Rios, why I'm recommending that you watch the fight, but that you not bet on the fight. Right? Or, put another way, if you are going to bet on the fight, consider it speculation. Right? Maybe you want to put some money on the underdog here. But the problem is the kind of fighter against whom you shouldn't be trying to learn a new system, trying to break in a new trainer, is a fight against a Brandon Rios, who's not going to give you time to think. Right? Timothy Bradley's been thrown off of his game before. What exactly was he trying to accomplish in that Pacquiao rematch? Right? He's been thrown off of his game. We know that even in a fight that he's winning, the Jesse Vargas fight, there's some part of Bradley that needs to fight back, that needs to get off the bike and actually throw some punches. Occasionally he is disciplined. Right? The Juan Manuel Marquez fight. But we all know Bradley has a lot of fight in him. Now Rios is going to come out and he's going to press the issue. That's what he does. And he's going to do it intelligently. And understand, in terms of mental toughness, it's very hard to find a more mentally tough guy than Brandon Rios. Right? The Diego Chavez fight. Rios is getting fouled. It's ridiculous. He never loses his focus. Look at that fight. Never loses his focus. He's not going to get disqualified. The commission's not going to come after him like it did Zab Judah after the Mayweather fight. No, Rios is always focused, right? His mindset is, hey, I'm going to take this to ground zero. When the bullets start, flying, I'm going to be the guy firing them. I'm going to keep my calm. The chaos is going to give me an opportunity. Now, the kind of opponent who to me would give Rios a hard time would be a Manny Pacquiao, who has been with Freddie Roach for a long time, right? Where, Pacquiao goes to the corner and he knows he's getting Angelo Dundee type advice, right? If there's a crisis that breaks out, these two guys have been together, right? Pacquiao knows, the approach his trainer wants him to use. Now look, in this fight, does Timothy Bradley have that? He's going to go to the corner. Teddy Atlas is going to talk to him. Is there going to be the level of trust? And I know the fight's a couple months away. But is there going to be the level of trust, the pattern of past behavior, the history with Teddy Atlas that Bradley has with Joel Diaz? And keep in mind, the problem too is Bradley's not Miguel Cotto, right? Cotto's a guy who has changed trainers in the past, right? So you could say, you know what? Here's Cotto during this era of his career. Here's Cotto during that era of his career, right? Understand, Timothy Bradley hasn't changed trainers for a long time. This is going to be new, right? In a sense, it's going to be like a first date. You know how awkward those were, right? And so I'll say this. I think this is a dangerous fight. Style-wise, you would think, since Bradley can move, since Bradley moved against Marquez, and since Manny Pacquiao was able to outmaneuver using foot speed Rios when they fought and got a wide decision, you would think Timothy Bradley, style-wise, should be able to follow the Pacquiao blueprint and beat Brandon Rios. But because of the change in the corner, I don't know. There's too much uncertainty for me. I'm going to be on the sidelines for this fight, right? I mean, to me, this is kind of like, the band after the breakup. You know what I'm saying? This is like Kool and the Gang after JT leaves. This is like the Commodores after Lionel Richie leaves. That album after the breakup, can you bet on it being as good as the album before the breakup? I'm not so sure. Right? So look, got a lot of respect for Atlas, got a lot of respect for Timothy Bradley. I'm on the sidelines on this. Right? Because Rios is not gonna give Bradley time to think. Because Rios' corner is one of the best corners in the business. Right? This fight looks too dangerous to me. That's how I see it. I'm surprised Bradley has decided to change corners right before this fight. I understand the way it is for fighters. You're sitting around hoping your promoter comes through, and then your promoter says, hey man, I got a fight that's going to pay X. And you're like, oh great, I could use X. Christmas is coming up. Let me buy some gifts for the kids. Let me pay some bills. And then you say, who's the opponent? And the promoter breaks the news to you that the opponent's a difficult opponent. I understand fighters take fights for a host of reasons, paychecks, etc. But this is a dangerous fight, especially coming after Bradley getting hit hard in the last round by Jesse Vargas. I'm on the sidelines here. Let me hear from you. Leave your comments for me here online. Visit us at gamblersadvisory.com. Thanks for stopping by.